And that's one of the things about religion that we have to remember when we're talking about that makes it such a hot topic issue is because we're talking about law. Who gets to be God? Who gets to be God's deputies? Who is the Most High? Who is the divine authority? It's all about the claim to the Most High. The only way that somebody can be higher than us is if we give away our power. Because there's nobody, we're all equal. But we're not equal in our knowledge, so ultimately I think it does have to be a hierarchy, but it has to be a cooperative hierarchy like a bee colony. It's about what our value system is, what we care about.
Hello, Hive Mind. Today is August 13th, 2020. I am your host, Nate Cap, joined by co-host Brandon Martin. Welcome to the 16th Cubbywhole Podcast, where important topics are unveiled, discussed, and tested. Our website is cubbywhole.com. That's cubbywhole.com. Thanks for being on today, Brandon.
Very welcome, Nate.
Glad to have you back on, man. On our last show, I asked Brandon some general questions people ask about natural law, which he broke down very well. So I highly recommend going back and listening to that episode, episode 15. On this show, hopefully, if we can get to these topics, we will be getting deeper into the worldview schisms, the polarized divide of the left and right brain, the expressions of natural law, the occult, the true divide, mind control, and what truly holds us back in consciousness. But before we do that, there was the last question that I asked on the other show, which is, why is natural law not widely known? So you can go ahead and answer that, Brandon.
This is a big question, you know. It's a very deep and heady question, because logically we should conclude that our species should know natural law, like what I was saying in the last episode. But unfortunately, it seems, which all the evidence points to this fact and to this truth, that this science of this knowledge, this body of knowledge, has been intentionally hidden from us by people that are in power to further their agenda. So this information has been occulted. And what I mean by occulted is it's been hidden. So I'm not sure if we actually gave the etymological definition of what the occult is, but I can give that here now. The word occult is derived from the Latin adjective occultus, which means hidden from sight, which is where we get our word like oculus from, ocular. And this also comes from occultare, to hide, to conceal, to keep secret. Both are in turn derived from the Latin noun oculus, which means eye. So obviously what we're talking about here is hidden knowledge, something that's hidden from our view, from our perception, And I find it kind of synchronistic, if you want to look at it that way, that, it has to do with the eye, and it could be related to the third eye also, not being able to see the spiritual laws. So our third eye must be open to intuit the laws of nature. And that's something I wanted to point out on the last show too, was that you have to have an intellectual ability and an intuitive ability to look at the laws of nature. You can't just look at it from the intellectual point of view, though that's one way you can. You're still missing out on the holistic picture of it, because a lot of it has to be intuited. And a lot of people won't look at that as a form of science, but intuition is a form of science if you understand it correctly. It is an initiation of getting to that left brain science, of going on that path to find those answers and to come to an accurate understanding through testing and observing and repeating, etc. So the occult knowledge that we're talking about here that has been hidden is natural law, and it's held by few, and the masses, well, I should say the ignorant masses of humanity are in the lack thereof of this knowledge. And so it has been intentionally withheld from us to create a power differential between those who hold that knowledge and those who do not. The dark occultists don't want us to understand natural law because they want us to act in immoral ways to promote their slave system. They want us to continue to not understand the difference between right and wrong, to be morally relativistic so that we are easily controlled. Because when we understand ourselves, when we understand the occult, when we understand natural law, we take our power back. We take the authority back that we've been giving over to them, which is only vested in the individual. You only have the authority to rule yourself. And really the only authority in the universe is the truth, ultimately. But
Right.
if we own ourselves, I'm just saying you have the authority over your own body and what you do it. And responsibility would be a better word for that. It is your responsibility. It's your property. It's, you own yourself. And they don't want you to understand your sovereignty, because if you do, then you're not going to be a slave and you're not going to play their games anymore.
Right.
You're not even not going to play their games. You might still play the game of chess that's being played, but you're going to know how to play it astutely. You're going to know how to win the game, and you're going to know how to win it in very short moves, like very quickly, because this knowledge is the most crucial. It is the most critical for the evolution of our species to understand. If we don't understand this, then we cannot evolve. I pointed this out the other day, that whenever you're looking at the origins of the species, you don't look for the technological advancements for the evolution. You look for the moral advancements, because that is what really evolves the species, is whether they're living in harmony with the laws of nature or not. And this is proven. This is absolutely proven through the records that we find. This is proven through all the tribes that the totemic tribes and their advancements, and it's proven through the Egyptian sciences, and before the degradation and the wars that broke out in the priest class. This is the knowledge that must be spread vastly across the mass majority of humanity for our species to evolve. We cannot evolve without understanding the occult and without understanding natural law.
100%. Yeah, man. Very well said. I really like the way you broke that down. And, to better understand the occult, we're going to, expand deeper into the polarized dialectics, aka worldview prisons or schisms. That which keeps us in one form of imbalance or the other, or both. So Brandon is going to help us understand the left brain randomness worldview prison, and then the hallmarks of what it means to be in a right brain prison, or a right brain prison of determinism, because that's what it really comes down to, is either the left-brained belief that everything in the universe is a grand accident and random, so basically everything is mechanized only, or the right-brained imbalance belief that life is determined and we are all victims, aka no free will choice to make any real change. So if you want, Brandon, go ahead and let us know a little bit about the polarized dialectics, the worldview schism.
Absolutely. And I mean, you hit it right off the bat very simply. Randomness is that left brain association to how the universe is created. The universe is a grand accident, is what they say, like you stated. And if you just give me this one thing, this one point of creation, then I can give you everything else from that point. This is what the left brain scientists, scientism groups try to say and scientists say. There is no creator, therefore there is no underlying intelligence in nature. It's all mechanized. There is no meaning, there is no purpose for creation. There is no creator, it's just a creation, and there is no such thing. Because of this, there's no such thing as spirituality, morality, or natural law. There's no such a thing as any of these, right? Existence has no purpose other than to continue to exist, which is the idea that survival is the pinnacle of existence, that materialistic survival is the pinnacle of existence, and specifically Darwin ideas of genetic propagation is the main purpose for genes to repopulate. That's what scientists think and Darwinists think, that the only thing that needs to happen is more complex genes and better genes, because genes govern everything about humanity, which we've went into and kind of debunked in our episode about Darwinism and social Darwinism, and showed the component of epigenetics to counteract that. But all of this is hallmarks of scientism, atheism, and really totalitarianism, this left brain thinking. And then you have the opposite side, because these are all dichotomies. It's either one or the other, right? If you're not in this think, then you must be in this think over here. Just like the political parties. If you don't support this party, then you must support this party, which is a logical fallacy. It's not true. It's not based in truth. But the right brain associations is that the right brain is correlated to determinism, which is a religious thought, that God controls every event in creation. All occurrences are preordained, and nothing can happen unless it's in harmony with God's will. Free will is an illusion. It does not exist. Since God controls everything, change is impossible. There's no point in free will. There's no point in you doing anything, because God controls everything. Everything that's going to happen, even you not doing something, is part of God's plan. Action is utterly meaningless in that, regards. And these are all hallmarks of religious extremism and slave think. So you have master think on the left, and you got slave think on the right. And this is the false dichotomy. This is the worldview schism. All of our control mechanisms that we're seeing play out come from one of these ideologies or the other, and they play off of each other to create a state of perfected slavery in the mind, so that we create a state of slavery in the physical. So what do both of these components leave out? Well, they both leave out free will. That's really what they leave out, randomness, the randomness component. Everything is a grand accident. There is no creator. There's no such thing as spirituality, morals, or natural law, anything like this, Everything is just random. So there is no free will. There is no choice in this. And the other one is determinism, which everything is predetermined by God. And obviously there's no free will because of this. And all your actions are meaningless because they're all God's actions pretty much. So you have no individuality, and you have no real meaning besides to continue to just exist. They both meet in the extremes. So you can see the similarities between the two and how they play off of each other, because at the extremes of these ideologies, they ultimately meet. They're seemingly separate, but they ultimately meet to make this grand control matrix that is binding our mind, because really they're both religious ideologies. And I know that you wanted to break down the word religion, so maybe that's a good time to break down the word religion is right now.
Well, we're actually,
we can do that. We can do that later. That's fine.
We're gonna save that for a little bit, just because I wanted to make sure that I said it in the order. But yeah, definitely, these are religions in these prisons, these schisms. They turn into religions, and like I said, we're gonna get into that here in a little bit. But something I wanted to say is, when you understand how the workings of natural law are, when you understand how we are all bound to that law, well, it's like gravity. We are always bound to it. So therefore, natural law is a immutable condition that holds everything in place. Because natural law binds us, we continue on the path regardless. This is why people say, especially like these religionists in the right brain, they say that, everything is preordained and that we are, everything is determined, and we are basically, we don't have to do anything to change anything as long as you believe in God and you believe in Jesus or whatever. It's about understanding that there's a half truth there. But what's false about that is that that makes you a victim, and that makes it to where you can't actually choose right from wrong. You just live out your life, and you get to have this experience, and really that's just another form of solipsism, because you have to understand that you do have the randomness component to choose right action over wrong action. You have the free will choice to choose something or to not choose something. You're on a set path that you can fall off of, essentially. And you can, if you stay on the path, that's you're living in accord to natural law. But if you fall off the path, that's your choice. That's your free will choice to fall off the path and do something that is, wrong, that takes you away from the goal. So go ahead, Brandon. I know you were going to say something.
Well, absolutely. I feel that what you said was, amplifying what I was trying to make clear a moment ago. And this is something I forgot to say, which is, determinism, that's natural law. Natural law is deterministic. So yeah, both of these components are a part of reality itself. Randomnism and then determinism. They both are a component to reality. Randomness is the randomness idea, or the randomnism idea, is free will. That's the free will component. And the deterministic component is the natural law governing dynamics, the boundary conditions, which we're all bound by. I don't know how else to say it besides that we're all bound by these conditions. That's why it's deterministic, it's determined. And we also have to understand that that word implies something that has determined that, which implies a creator. So for you to believe in natural law, for you to believe in karma, you have to, at some level, pre-assume that there is a creative force, an underlying intelligence to nature, and that's what left brain scientists don't want to admit. Yet you get all these scientists that study quantum mechanics, and then eventually they come out and they're like, oh yeah, there is nothing but an intelligent force working underneath of nature. If I go far enough into science, I realize that there is a God, is a quote from one quantum physicist. I can't remember who said that, but you have these, it's another dialectical manipulation. You have Darwinism and creationism. You have matter is supreme, and then you have spirit is supreme. You have, and on that idea of Darwinism and matter is supreme, you have spirit is non-existent or insignificant. It doesn't matter. There's no point to that when it comes to matter, right? There is no underlying intelligence or consciousness in nature. That consciousness is not a part of how the fabric of nature is created. Consciousness itself is an effect from matter itself. Like the brain creates consciousness itself, which we know to not be true. One way that we know that is also through epigenetics, but there's many other sciences that do show that. And it's just like what you said earlier, nature is a dead and mechanized clockwork machine with no purpose. There is no meaning to nature, right? There is nothing to this. This is all that left brain think. Genes control human beings like a computer code controls programs, and we're completely bound by these genes, and we're victims to these genes. So just like what you were talking about with the victim idea about being victim to God, well, the dichotomy to that, the opposite side of that, is being victim to genes, that we're all victims here in reality. And so you got the opposite side, which is creationism, which is spirit is supreme, matter is inferior and should be looked down upon. The creator is separate from the creation. That the creator does not evolve or does not learn and grow, or that it is in some separate area or realm or space from creation. It's not part of it. And then you have nature is something that is separate from us, that we should not be seen as nature ourselves, or as a part of nature ourselves. This is all religious think. God controls every event within creation, so no change can ever be created unless God wills it to be so, which is absolutely ridiculous. We know that we have free will, but we also know that there are laws that we can either live in harmony with or not live in harmony with. So we're trying to strike a balance between the two. That's the key here. That's the key of our entire message, I feel, for all of the work that we're going to be putting out as the main grassroots solution, which is striking a balance between these ideologies and finding the objective truth and the moral compass, the moral north that we need to go,
Exactly.
Finding our true north with these things and really, applying ourselves with that understanding of that knowledge. So we need to get rid of these two entrenched paradigms that are completely stagnating human consciousness and get into the middle and take what is truthful out of both of them,
Right.
Which is matter and spirit are together. We are spiritual beings experiencing something in the physical form, that we have a say-so in. We have a say-so in what is taking place in our condition. We get to say that we can change the condition that we are experiencing based off what we're doing in our reality and what we're putting into ourselves and what we're putting out of ourselves because of the quality of that, So if it's good stuff, then we get good stuff. If it's bad stuff, we get bad stuff. But we have to have the idea that spirit and matter are equal to each other.
Right.
So spirit in the flesh, right? Boots on the ground, head of the cosmos, the stellar man's mind in the cosmic planes, but simultaneously being boots firmly placed in the earth where the work has to be done.
Very well stated. Very well stated. That's exactly what has to be understood. So, making sure you understand randomness and determinism is where you'll find the middle ground. And it's a very nice little sweet spot of very, very powerful knowledge that will definitely empower you and help you because you can't understand the truth, the natural law and free will together without the two, which is randomness and determinism. So that's why you have to know both sides. That's why you have to study both sides and really see how they work together. So how do we come to know and understand how natural law works or operates in our lives? Well, there's 5 basic expressions, which are the generative force, the initiative expression, internal expression, and the external expression, and the 5th, which is the manifested result. And that's the other expression. So each of these 5 expressions come with a positive and negative aspect. So that totals 10 expressions altogether. So 5 positive and 5 negative. Brandon is going to lay out each of these 5 expressions and describe how each one generates a positive and or negative expression manifested.
Right. It starts with the inner and then manifested into the outer. So yeah, these are known as natural law expressions, and pretty much we have 2 that we start out with: a positive and negative expression. A generative polarity is what we could call it. What we use to create with. What are we starting out with? What's our starting material here for this alchemical process that we're going through? So we have our positive expression, which we could call love or consciousness. And what I mean by love, and what others have stated very wellly, is that we're talking about agape or agape, which is the highest form of love. So the Greeks had, they had different sets of love that you could break down, because love is so ambiguous. To use one word to explain such a complex thing is very very limiting. So they would break it down. One set of labels they had for it was in 7, and then they had another one in 3. And we'll just use the 3 for this show. But the Greeks had 3 different words for love. They had a set of 3, and you had eros or eros, and this was also one of their gods in their mythological systems, which was the god of love. This is about passionate love, like physical desire. This is about mate's love. This is about your love with your girlfriend or your significant other or your wife or something like this. Then you have philos, which is a familiar love, which is the love of the mind, which is like, I love my skateboard. I love my ability to skateboard. I love these other things that are more like it's more like a mental abstraction in a way when you get into philos. And then you have agape, which is universal love, which is the expansion of consciousness. This is what moves evolution forward. This is what moves our species forward into more complex forms and into a higher state, or we could just call it ascension. You could use that word there simultaneously or synonymously, I mean. So love in this factor is, what I mean here is that what we're starting out with in the natural law expressions, this kind of love is agape, meaning it's universal love. It's something that expands and makes life more complex, but in doing so, it makes it more moral and more orderly, and it helps to benefit the whole. It creates a homeostasis within the all. So it's about moving everything forward. It's about forward momentum and growth,
Right.
And the opposite to that, the negative expression to that, what we could choose to start out with, is fear, which we could correlate to unconsciousness, the lack of consciousness, or we could even say the lack of universal love. So fear is the opposite of that expansive force. It's a contracting force. It prevents us from actually doing what we say we want to do. It prevents us from creating the systems that we want. It's a force that holds us back, that restricts us, that makes us resistant towards an orderly outcome, because when we're living in fear, we tend to become very addicted to living in that. Honestly, a lot of people find a huge addiction to that, and they just constantly perpetuate that, and it resists actually bringing in change. It puts us in a victim mentality. It puts us in a state of unconsciousness, and it puts us in a place that we are not growing. We are decaying. We are breaking down. We're not moving forward anymore. We are becoming stagnant, and we're becoming less functioning. We have no function with that. The function is completely just gone. There is no function. But from this, if we move linearly down, like let's imagine this, because I know we don't have slides right now. Slides will be up eventually. We definitely will be putting some slides up eventually. But if you just imagine having 2 columns here, and you have love on the left column and you have fear on the right column at the top of it, and then you're moving linearly down, these columns. Well, the next phase to this is the initiating expression, how it starts. So underneath love, you would have knowledge. You would have the presence of knowledge within that being, which is also the acceptance of truth. And vice versa to that, what would be an emergent property after fear would be the refusal of truth, or ignorance. You are ignoring that which is true. You are ignoring the conditions of reality. You are ignoring natural law conditions. And you can't cross over with any of these. You can't go from, you can't be in knowledge and simultaneously be in ignorance of that thing that you are knowledgeable of. These two don't cross over at all. None of these will cross over. You start with this and you end up at the end with manifestation with that, no matter what. So the next expression underneath the column of love would be the internal expression. What happens inside of us? So we have knowledge, the acceptance of truth. What happens next? Well, we gain sovereignty. We gain the understanding of our own self-ownership, which could be called internal monarchy. This is what's happening inside of us. So when I say monarchy, I mean one ruler. Mon meaning one and archy meaning ruler or archon. And so this means that you are ruling yourself. You're not ruling anybody else. You're only ruling yourself. Contrary to that, on the opposite side to that, you would have confusion that would come out of ignorance. So this would be stated as internal anarchy. And we've never broke down the word anarchy on this series, but the word anarchy simply means the absence of rulers. No masters, no rulers. It doesn't mean without rules. It just means no masters, no rulers. So internal anarchy would be the absence of somebody ruling themselves. It means that nobody is home to rule the house. Nobody is there to control the body, which means that you're easily controlled, honestly. It puts you in a position where you can be manipulated very easily because you're confused. And we all know this. People who are confused can be led astray very quickly and very easily. So the next expression underneath of sovereignty, if we're going down this list, this column, we would have the external expression. So we started with love, we got knowledge, then we had sovereignty, and what happens in society from this? What happens afterwards from this? Well, then we have freedom, which we could term external anarchy. Which would be the absence of people believing that they have a claim of ownership over other people and the product of their labor. Pretty much the absence of slavery. Without euphemizing it, it's the absence of slavery. That's what it means. And in contrary to that, you would have, you could say control, or you could just say slavery. So underneath confusion, if you're going down that column, you would have slavery or control, which is external monarchy. Someone who's externally trying to control somebody else, or something else that they do not have a right to control. And because of this, you have a state of slavery. And then you have the manifestation, the result we get as a whole, as the whole of the species. So on the left column, with love being the starting point, the ending point would be order. And what I mean by order here is manifested good, a good result, a functioning result. So when I say order, we're talking about function. The optimal function of our species is to be in a manifested good condition. That's where we're going to work optimally. And so you can just think about like a simple machine, right? Like a soda pop machine. If it's out of order, then it's not functioning. So if you place an order to that machine that is out of order, if you put your coin in it and you want to get a soda from it, you're not going to get what you asked for when you put it into that machine because it's broken. It's out of order. It's in chaos, and that would be the negative attribute that would come about from living through the aspects of fear. It would be a manifested bad result, and it could be even correlated to manifested evil also, because evil is a free will choice that we choose to do. It's not inherent in nature. It only comes from beings with the capacity to choose to do a moral action or an immoral action. But if that soda pop machine was working, then you would have manifested good. You would get the soda that you ordered for. Not that I think you should be drinking soda. You should definitely be drinking juice or something like that instead. But this is just an example, obviously. So yeah, let's make it a juice machine instead. So you're getting something good from that. You're getting organic, good, nutritious vitamins and enzymes and everything that you need because you started out with love, right? And let's just say that machine is the universe. Well, is the universe working? Well, yeah, it's working. It's functioning, so it's in order. That's why natural law functions the way it does. It's not out of order. It's not broken. It's going to work that way. But unlike the universe, human beings have free will. We have free will, so we get to choose whether we are functioning or non-functioning. So we get to choose what column that we go down. Do we start with love and end up in a good condition, end up in freedom, have sovereignty, have knowledge, acceptance of truth? Or do we start with fear and live in unconsciousness, the refusal of truth, being completely blatantly ignorant and confused, and the absence of controlling ourselves, and seek to control other people, and then create a condition of chaos in our society because we don't understand what we're doing and we're acting out of fear?
Wow, man. Very well said. And I really like the way you organized everything, for the audience to visualize the columns and to understand. So basically, it's about, starting off in love with agape, to want to know, to seek the truth for knowledge. And, through knowledge, understanding your sovereignty, which is about, external anarchy, which is freedom to create good order, to create order, period, because the opposite of order would be chaos. So then the opposite of love and everything I just said would be, if you're starting off in fear, well, that's because, I like this one because, most people will agree that we fear what we don't know. And why don't we know? Well, most of the time it has to do with, I would say, before 30 years ago, it had to do with nescience because, the information wasn't there. But now it's just willful ignorance, refusing the truth. And then that leads to confusion, not knowing, what your rights are because you didn't seek the knowledge and you don't understand your sovereignty. You don't understand, what true freedom actually means, which is, without external monarchy, without, the control of rulers, which always leads to chaos or evil all through history. It's always been that way. So very well said, Brandon. I think you did excellent on that. But before we go any further, I want to stress the importance and understanding of the breakdown of words and their definition. We're gonna cover the word religion and the word government. So we have to know how to find the original meanings of words to get as close to it as we can, where the word is derived from, to give us a better understanding of what else words might actually be saying. And for those who don't know, this is called etymology or derivation. Something very, 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 very important that all people should know is how to research words. So this means so etymology and derivation means the study of the origin of words and where they derive from and how they evolved or changed in our history. And when it comes to definitions, most dictionaries give modern meanings of words, including the old definitions. Plus, there's a lot of words that aren't used any longer. So, in my opinion, one dictionary source is definitely not enough. You're going to have to use multiple dictionaries. I definitely recommend physical dictionaries, just because, like old physical dictionaries and new ones, and also the ones that you can find on the internet, just so you have like a better, well-rounded idea of where words come from. So, much of the English language has Latin and Greek origins, and many words we use in our vocabulary are simply compounds formed from three types of elements, also known as roots or stems, which is very, metaphorical too. And these three elements are bases, prefixes, and suffixes. These are what we use to configure many different forms of words. So some of the words we break down today are very, very controversial. And I highly recommend listening to the definitions in correspondence to the breakdown of the words, so there's a clear picture of why the words actually mean what truly needs to be understood. Okay? It's what the breaking down these words is what needs to be understood. It's not about like, I know everything and this is exactly what this word means just because, someone else said it. It's about understanding why these, like how words are broke down into compounds, but then understanding that what is the word actually, what does it represent, and what's actually taking place in our life from that word that makes the word mean what it means. So on podcast 11, we covered some really important information about the religious dogma of scientism, social Darwinism, which is, the law of the jungle, and solipsism. But what is it that truly makes something, religious or a religion? What's a requirement for religion to work? It's belief or faith, right? So, do you think the overarching meaning of religion has anything to do with, or solely to do with, rereading? Well, if you don't know, that's what it's defined as etymologically. So obviously, there's nothing wrong with rereading anything. I want to make that very clear. There's nothing wrong with rereading anything. So, but there is absolutely something wrong with religion itself, especially institutionalized, organized religion, which I'd hope most people would agree with by now. So, that's what has to be understood is like, do you really think rereading as the etymology of religion or what I'm going to get into is where the word comes from, which is religare. Do you really think that it means to reread? That doesn't make that wouldn't make any sense. Like, oh yeah, my religion is, or I'm sorry, I have a, I'm part of a Christian reread. It's like, no, that wouldn't make any sense. So, and I think most people would agree with that. But when breaking down the word religion, it comes from the Latin word religare, meaning to tie back, to hold back, to bind fast, to thwart forward progress. And religare is broken down into two compounds. The prefix re means back, and then the connective vowel lig, L-I-G, meaning to bind, and that's part of the word ligare, okay, which means tie. So it's about binding or tying back. Essentially, it means when it comes to false religion, it's about what keeps the self held back from raising in consciousness. That's what faith and belief do in false religion. It's about keeping the self comfortable and never progressing any further. And, that causes stagnation in our evolution because it's about, unchallenged beliefs based in dogma. Also, it's important to understand there is one true binding to or tying back to, and that is truth itself. So, the one true religion is truth, and that's the positive aspect of the word religion. So basically, we have to stop making religion the truth and start making truth our religion. Did you want to add anything, Brandon?
It's just very well, what you said is very well stated. There's a lot to religion. I feel like we shouldn't throw the baby out with the bathwater, first of all, right? But we also cannot fall into the binding aspects and the negative connotations to it. So there's a positive connotation, which is binding back to truth, which is what you're talking about. And I feel that is where everybody kind of misses the entire point of that. But what we are facing is false religious dogma, in our world. That's what we're facing currently, is the dogmas that have been brought down to us that have become institutionalized religious belief systems that thwart us from forward momentum and forward progress. So, yeah, it doesn't make any sense why the etymology would be reread. Let's, reread this over and over and over. I could see it as a form of mind control or a form of obfuscation of the word itself.
Right.
Something that I thought about a while back, and I'm not sure if it's etymologically connected or not, but I know the Latin word leg or leg means law also. So I thought that was kind of interesting. So back to law could also be a connection to religion, like us getting back to natural law, if we look at it positively, right?
Right.
But, I just think that's kind of interesting, that we do have that, because leg comes from lex in Latin, and lex means law. So I just find it really important to hammer on the fact that, we are fighting religion, we're fighting false religions, but don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. There's a lot of knowledge there that we do need to understand that really helps us understand our origins,
right,
and things like that, but we need to really filter through it, and we need to stop literizing a lot of the text to that degree and understand most of them are allegorical rather than historical,
right,
and really try to get to the moral principles and the moral points of what religions is supposed to be trying to teach us, but they're not teaching us, So religions are absolutely a form of mind control, that's what they are, and that's what they have been, since the beginning of them.
And people have a really tough time understanding the difference between religion and religions, plural.
Right.
Right. So it's about, religions as we know them are the, organized institutions formed by and tied together by belief in their teachings and views. And that's, this isn't a bashing on the actual teachings, okay? But it's religion itself is anything that, may hold us back from forward progress in consciousness. And, some examples would be like, the belief in authority, or the belief in politicians, or the monetary system, or some kind of savior or something. Those are all forms of religion.
Right.
So it's belief.
That's right. Even the ideas of scientism is a religion. Even left brain ideas, only science can give us the answers. Darwinism, it's a religion. Social Darwinism is a religion. These political ideologies have become religions to people. Marxism, fascism, these are all religions now.
Well, we got about 15 minutes left. I want to get into the word government as well. This is we could go on and on about religion, and we're going to definitely extrapolate on that topic as we go on in the show. But let's talk about government for a second, or for a few minutes. The word government. Let's talk about government and the word. It's also a very controversial word, which I believe was deliberately constructed to confuse us. And that's what government actually does. And especially when it comes to how the word is actually broken down. If we look deeply into the Latin roots, we'll find what's important to understand about that word. It's divided down or broken down into two compounds, which are, the first part is govern, which comes from the Latin verb gubernare, which means simply to control. And gubernare is the infinitive form of the verb. The first person present tense is guberno, which means govern. There wasn't a V in classical Latin, but it's important to understand that the letters B and V phonetically sound the same. Because when you say the letter V, I have a lot of friends who speak Spanish, which comes from Latin, and that's when they say the letter V, I'm thinking they're saying B. So it's important to understand where the letters come from, or like when they evolved into the letters that they are. So, like I said, V, the letter V, wasn't in classical Latin. So so like I said, it's about understanding the phonetic sound of B and V. And govern literally means to externally control, which is obviously in the effects of what government actually does. So the government controls what? It controls the citizens. So now think of how that is. Think of how it controls its citizens and how it gets its citizens to, do what it wants. How it accomplishes that. How government controls us. The slave named citizen. So it's funny because people who argue this will go straight to the online dictionaries and find definitions and try to prove the whole word government isn't broken down into two parts and comes from the old French meaning control, direction, or administration, and that's it. And they're not really wrong though, because it's just there's a bit more to it than that, because for one, you can't just leave out the noun, the noun forming suffix, which is meant. It's MENT. What many people believe meant translates to is act of, result of, or quality of. And again, there's more to it. What really needs to be understood is the suffix ment is the Latin noun mentis, or mens, meaning a condition of or a state of, which also translates to mind. So any word that ends in ment makes that word mean condition of or state of. So that, for example, argument or statement or containment or excitement. So it's basically, the argument of the mind or the state of mind or containing the mind or, to excite the mind. The mind is excited, for excitement. But first we have to understand the first Hermetic principle, which is mentalism. And we got into that on podcast 13, so I definitely recommend to go back and listen to that, or read the Kybalion and you'll find it there. So basically, the all is mind. The universe is mental. So everything in creation that exists in the universe must, by law, it would have first had to have existed in the mind. Mind is the root of manifestation, so everything must flow from mind. The universe flows from the mind through creation itself. Everything that exists flows and generates from a mental condition first. So anything that has, been manifested had to first start in the mind. That means control started from the mind, and so that means that it was perpetuated through the control of mind.
Yeah, I mean that's absolutely true. And I think people really have a recalcitrant mindset towards understanding the definitions of words when it comes down to breaking them down. Even when you do bring in the definitive definitions, people still have a hard time because they don't want to admit that they were wrong and that they support mind control. That if you are under government, then you are a supporter of mind control. So you're a supporter of mind control. So you are a support of that that roof that you're creating, not the foundation, but you are a support of that actual entity.
Right.
So mind control itself is what we're facing off against, and government is a manifestation of our own internal illness, our diseased mind, because it's the idea, the belief in authority, that men have the right to govern over other people in this world. And so it's a direct effect or condition of an emergent property of what's going on within our mind. And people need to understand that, that condition of, that state of, can be changed, that
Right.
we don't have to live that way, that we can change that. We don't have to have governments. We can live in a stateless society. The whole idea that government is necessary is the belief that evil is necessary, and it enshrines the entire idea that violence is acceptable as a virtue to rule a populace. You
Right.
know,
You could also say that, the word government is the state of mind that leads to control, or controlling the mind that leads to, or manifest as a result of controlling the mind.
right? And I mean, what is mind control? Is it not a form of slavery?
Right. Yeah, it's completely a form of slavery. And that's what we're seeing here, peripheralated. Did I say that right?
I think so, yeah.
It's everywhere. Government is all over this world. Permeated. I don't know. But yeah, government is everywhere. And, because that means mind control is everywhere. It's people not having control of their mind. I wanted to say that, even, and I'm not saying like you don't have any control over your mind. I'm just saying that, we are all indoctrinated from a very young age. And most of what we know, if we've never done any true research on our own, is there to get us to go in a certain direction, think a certain way, believe in a certain way, and basically believe that government is the only solution.
Our Lord and Savior.
Right, exactly. I wanted to say, like, even in the Romanian dictionary, gubernare means sway. And from Greek, it's kybernon, which means to pilot a ship. So government obviously isn't literally a pilot of a ship, right? So what does a pilot of a ship do, though? It steers the ship, controls the direction of where the ship goes, right? And what about the ship? You could look at that as the body being swayed or steered, like the body of the people. So it's metaphorically, the ship is the body of the people, and the pilot is the controllers or steerers of those people, or of us people. And how do you sway or steer a whole people? Well, either through mind control or physical violation, or both. And that's exactly what government does. We can see this completely and logically if we are paying honest and close attention, being honest with ourselves, and not believing that government is here to protect us.
Absolutely.
So
I like that metaphor too.
Yeah. Here's the other thing. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. The think about the word. This is what blows my mind. Okay, so think about like the first principle of mentalism, or the first Hermetic principle, which is mentalism. What did I say? Mental. Okay, mental. All right, it's mind. Mental is mind. That's what it translates to. Mental means mind. Okay, so you think of the word governmental. It literally translates to control mind, or mind control. And it's like, it's like what you think that meant doesn't have like any meaning to it when you think of the word government. That's crazy to me to think like, okay, well, where does the word governmental comes from? It comes from government. Government is a shorter form of governmental.
Absolutely. And I mean, even if you didn't have mint on that, Do you still think it's legitimate to control the direction of other people?
Exactly.
Like somehow that makes the idea of control justified because it's not the mind, though that's how it's done. Like, get over yourself and get over this bullshit.
Right.
And start to wake up, because guess what? You don't have a right to control the way my life goes. That's the whole idea, is that it's a monopoly over an individual's ability to discern the way they want their life to go, especially when they're doing no harm.
Exactly. And if a lot of people will say that it's all just semantics, what we're saying here. And my answer to that is just, you're not paying attention. You're not doing the homework. I mean, go out and read. Like I have there are a few different books, but one of them is it's called English Words from Latin and Greek Elements. It's all about compounds, it's about suffixes and prefixes and bases of words and how they're formulated. You can look at it for yourself. I mean, just to understand the language part of it, okay? Just to understand the technical side of the word, let alone, what the word actually manifests and expresses in our life. I mean, when you understand how mind control works, then you definitely see that government couldn't be anything other than that, and I know it's hard it's hard to understand for those who haven't studied classical Latin. And I'm not saying I have in depth, but I definitely study and look into etymology and compound derivations of many words, because it's really important to understand origins and the evolution of language.
Yeah, well, it's also the origins of the ideas behind the language. The language is there as a means of communicating the ideas. So we're trying to get to the root of the causality, which lies in the mind, and we're trying to deal with the corrupted, viral ideas that we have, and we're trying to get rid of those because those are what are causing us problems. So I like the John Locke quote. He says that the natural liberty of man is to be free from any superior power or superpower on earth, and not to be under the will or legislative authority of man, but only to have the law of nature for his rule. And that's what we're talking about here. The only thing that has rightful rulership in this world is truth and natural law. That's it.
Right.
No man has any rightful ownership or rulership over another sentient beings. They own their property, they own their own car, or they own their body, they own their tablet, whatever it might be, right? But you do not have the right to rule over me or any other being here. And that's innate, and we need to really get with that, because we're a species who enshrines the idea of slavery. I mean, we really do. We beg for it, which is really sad and absurd. But what I think Voltaire said, those who can convince you of absurdities can make you commit atrocities.
Atrocities,
like
yeah. Make you commit atrocities, for sure.
That's right. And it is an atrocity, to believe in this ideology. So you don't have the right to believe in slavery. Can you believe in it? Yeah, you can.
Yeah.
But do you have the right to believe in that? Like, is it an actual right? Well, since the action that creates slavery starts in the mind, then no, you don't. Yeah, you can think about it, but what I mean by belief is a solidified concept that you are going to behave off of. An axiomatic idea that you're going to behave from, right? Since I believe this way, I'm going to behave off of the way I believe. You don't have the right to behave that way, so you don't have the right to believe that way either.
Right. And it's like authority is basically an illusion based in a diseased psyche, and that's based in the dogma that, some people are masters who have the right to command others, that those others are slaves who have the moral obligation to obey their master. And it's really disturbing that people believe in that illusion.
Absolutely, man. It's deplorable, but that's what we're doing, That's why we're here, to make great change through positive thinking and through applying that positive thinking into positive action.
Right. I wanted to say one more thing about the word government, because, it's obfuscated. It's, like, for instance, you would think that the ruling class wouldn't want a term like government to be propagated negatively. But the truth is, we have to understand that the ruling class plays everything, including language, very close to the chest. And, they've proven that many, many times, and they will, they continue to do so, and they'll confuse words to cause division and, confusion to maintain a power differential. It's all about it's all about control and mind control, essentially. So,
absolutely.
Is there anything else you wanted to add before we get off here?
Nope. I'm good on that. We can continue with this discussion on the next episode.
Awesome. Well, we just went over the hour a little bit, and that's okay. But that's all the time we have today, guys. So thanks for tuning in and giving this information your time and attention. You can find more of our work here at Cubbywhole.com. That's Cubbywhole.com. And there you'll find news updates, videos, and much more, including the S.E.E.D conference that will be coming up next year in 2021 in May. So definitely stay tuned for that. We hope you have found value here today, and please tune in to the next show where we go further into natural law and expand on the topics we just touched on today. So that might be just me, or it might be just Brandon. Not sure yet. So it's really important to watch these natural law shows in order, and not miss any shows, so that way you get the full picture and have a better understanding. So that being said, thank you for being on today, Brandon, and thank you all for listening. Have a great day.